Hello everyone, welcome to the Introduction to DevOps and Linux Systems course. My name is Ajetunmobi Michael and I'm excited to be your facilitator for this journey. To give you a bit of background about myself, I'm an engineer with a diverse professional experience that spans across system engineering, networking, computer hardware and DevOps. Currently, I work as an SRE engineer for a tech company in Silicon Valley. Throughout this course, I'll be sharing insights, knowledge, and hands-on experience that I've gained over the years in the fields that I've worked and in the current role that I'm in as an SRE. This course is structured around approximately 6 modules, the 6 video modules, and each of them are dedicated to a specific topic that will guide you through the fundamentals of DevOps and the use of the Linux operating system. The video courses are highly practical and they contain exercises and assignments after each of the modules. We also will have sandboxes for practicals, right, to be able to demonstrate what we've learned. The approach is highly practical, as I just said, focusing not only on the theoretical understanding, but also on applying what we've learned through hands-on experience and hands-on projects and assignments at the end of each module. So without further ado, let us go into the modules we'll be looking at during the period of this course. So the first module is an introduction to DevOps and Linux operating system. So in this module, we'll be taking a fundamental look into what is DevOps, starting from the root word, right? DevOps, right? From developer and operations. What is this new term? Like, is it a? Some people argue that DevOps is not a real field. It's just a concept, right? What is the concept of DevOps, if it's a concept, and how do different companies apply DevOps to what they currently do, and why is the Linux operating system very, very important for doing DevOps, right? In this module, we will take a look at some of these. Actually, we'll take a look at all of these subtopics. So we will start with, the Linux operating system, basic Linux commands, with the objective to familiarize ourselves with the Linux command line and basic file manipulation. So we'll learn how to use Linux, right? How to go into the terminal and figure your way around, running various Linux commands, what those commands do, shortcuts, and how to find what a command does when you're in a Linux operating system. Sometimes you don't remember what commands or how to use them. How do you figure that out? Then we also learn file manipulation, how to create a file, how to edit a file, how to write to a file, how to create a new file, how to append the file, string manipulation in the file, text editors, Vim, Nano, right? Then we would also learn about Linux users and groups. So as a Linux sysadmin, one of the first and the most important things you're going to be doing today is managing users, especially when you're managing a system with multiple users, right? When you have like a server with multiple users, you want to know how to manage them, how to create users, how to grant permission, how to create different groups, adding different users to groups, managing different groups, understanding how this works in Linux. Also, we're going to take a look at Linux permissions, files and directories. Permissions and files are everything in Linux, right? Everything in Linux is a file, right? From the tiniest text file or to the tiniest binary file, like those files are what makes up a Linux operating system. Like, how do we create files, how do we move files around, how do we create directories, manipulate directories, then also how do we grant permissions to the users, to groups on each of these files and each of these directories. Like, these are like the bread and butter of Linux, and it is very, very essential to understand how this works to be able to do sysadmin or DevOps work. Also, we'll touch on Linux package management. Um, so in Linux we have what we call distros. So distros are like the varieties of operating system. For example, we have the Fedora distro, we have the Debian, the Ubuntu. You must have heard of these ones because they're the most popular, right? Each of these distros have their own package management. Um, they have the way of managing packages. So when you want to download a new software, how do you do it? Usually you use one of these package management softwares, for example, apt for Ubuntu, DNF for Fedora. We'll learn how to use them to install, uninstall, upgrade packages. Also, would look at environment variables and bash scripting. So environment variables are how we tell how we tell Linux operating system how and what we need, to manipulate or to run a particular operation in a particular shell environment, right? You might need like a password, you might need a username, login, credential to be able to run some operations, maybe for scripting or for running applications, and you might need to inject those configurations into an environment variable. You would have to come across this a lot, like when doing Linux, right? Also bash scripting, like very, very, very important, right? I mean, bash scripting it's a must know for anyone who's going to do DevOps and Linux. We'll also talk about text processing in the first module, how to manipulate, create text files, how to search, filter, sort, those things. Right, those things usually come in handy, like when you're debugging. Right, we'll take a look at how to do that, and then we'll take a look at the systemd. The systemd is a process manager specifically for Ubuntu. It's a process manager mostly for a lot of Linux operating system use it, but more popular with like Ubuntu. If you've used Ubuntu, you would like know how to use systemd. You would have come across systemd. It's the most popular in its system and it's very robust, right? We'll take a look at how to use systemd to manage processes, to start processes, restart processes, enable processes, and so much more. So that's the first module. So you can see we've got quite like a lot of things packed up for us to learn. The second module is going to be on web servers, and for this course we'll be taking a look at the Nginx web server and also databases. For this course we'll be taking a look at the MySQL database. So web servers are very important because they're the machines the virtual machines that basically host all our websites and web applications and even the mobile applications, right? You need like a web server to serve them, to serve all your applications, right? So you learn how to configure a web server using the Nginx. We'll learn how to configure Nginx, learn how to serve an application, we learn how to connect to a MySQL database. Also, databases are very important, right? That where you store your data. You learn how to do that as a Linux sysadmin. We also learn load balancing. How do you balance load? When you have like a high traffic website, you learn to balance load. It's very important. We're going to learn that with Nginx. We'll also learn Nginx troubleshooting and advanced configurations. Nginx has some very, very highly advanced configurations that you can use. For example, you can block IPs, right? You can whitelist, blacklist IPs. You can do a lot of things with Nginx, right? You can do proxy, reverse proxy, right? We're going to learn like some of these things and we'll actually do some practicals on these things. On module 3, we're going to take a look at some, I would say, intermediate Linux essentials. So remember in module 1 we did like the basics. So now we're going to be doing slightly more intermediate Linux stuff. And some of the things we'll be doing, we'll be talking about networking. Networking is like super important. Like it's how things connect to different things, right? If you're going to do like Docker or Kubernetes, like in more advanced levels, you have to understand the fundamental of networking and how it works in Linux, right? So we'll talk about IP addressing, subnets, CIDR notation, DNS, virtual hosts, basic networking commands. Also, we'll talk about firewall management, secure shell SSH for remote access, moving files across multiple machines using SCPU and rsync. So at this point, we will start to also talk about cloud using AWS. We'll talk about the difference between cloud and on-prem, like what is cloud, what is on-prem, what are the pros, cons of using each. We would also talk about the topology, like how do you connect to a cloud server versus how you connect to an on-prem server. How do you set up networking, how do you set up security, right? And at this point, we would be provided with AWS sandbox where we'll be able to play around, set up some of all these things that we've started to learn already. And last but not the least, on module 3, we'll be talking about managing processes and understanding system resources in Linux. System resources that include CPU, memory, that is RAM, disk usage, and network. So network in, network out, disk usage, virtual disk usage. How do you check like what is eating up your storage? How do you know where to free up storage? How do you calculate disk size? CPU, how do you know what is eating up your CPU? How do you manage CPU that you have on your machine? How do you manage the processes that you have? Same thing with memory, right? How do you debug when you have like issues with memory with CPU, right? We're going to take a look at all this stuff, and we're going to also do practicals on how to be able to understand and to debug them when we have issues around them. On module 4, we're going to talk about monitoring. Monitoring is a very, very, very essential part of DevOps, right? You need to have eyes to see what is going on in your system, like on your machine, on your VMs, on your cloud machines, on your applications. As a DevOps engineer, you need to be able to see, right, when you're not there, especially, right? You want to know how to set up monitoring, observation, and also alerting, right? You want to know when a server is down, or whether when a web page is down, or when a database is down. You want to know when your disk usage is at 90%, because it will cause problems, right? You don't want it to be when when clients start to complain, that's when you find a problem. You want to be able to catch the problem before it happens, and how you do that is with monitoring and observability. And we're going to be taking a look at two of the most popular tools for this. Grafana, which is basically a UI for monitoring, and Prometheus, which is a tool for scraping metrics. So we'll learn how these two works. We'll learn the PromQL language and how to query these metrics, and also we'll learn how to draw up and to connect dashboards with Grafana. Then we'll also learn monitoring and alerting, so how do we send alerts when we have a problem, right? So we're going to really go in depth in this. We're going to set up like dashboards for monitoring CPU, for monitoring RAM, monitoring disk usage. We would also set up like collection of this data and also exporting of this data using Node Exporter. So with Node Exporter, you can export different kind of metrics from different servers, right? And you can draw up a dashboard to monitor them and also create alerts to alert you when something is going wrong. So we'll set up a Prometheus. We'll set up Prometheus for metrics collection. We'll install and we'll configure Grafana for visualization and alerting. And we'll also set up a monitoring system for monitoring the health and performance of an application, right? Module 5, we're going to take a look at CI/CD. CI/CD, or some people know it as automation. It's the same thing, right? CI/CD, that is continuous integration and continuous development with Jenkins. So CI/CD is one of the core concepts of DevOps, because it is the way that you set up a pipeline, right, so to say, such that when your developers push from their laptop, git push, it triggers a pipeline that builds, that tests, if you use Docker, that pushes an image to Docker Hub or a remote repository, and from there triggers the deployment to maybe staging, and from there triggers the deployments to production, does a release. You can also include like a rollback when something goes wrong, include testing, integration testing, regression testing, all those things, right? And we can do this using different tools, but the most popular tool, which is also open source, and also, in my opinion, the most robust tool for this is Jenkins, right? Jenkins offers so much. Like you can do testing, you can do different kind of pipelines, multi-branch pipelines. You can do Docker builds, Kubernetes builds using Jenkins, and it's open source, right? So also Jenkins comes with a lot of plugins that allows you to do a lot of integrations, right? So in this course, we're going to talk about the concept of CI/CD itself. We're going to set up and we're going to configure Jenkins. You would be able to do this yourself also, because you can set up Jenkins on your local machine, and you will also be able to set it up like in the cloud using the sandbox you'll be provided. So we'll create a Jenkins pipeline, we'll run testing and deployment of the pipeline in the course, right? And lastly, we're going to have the final module, which is a module that gives us a chance to go back to revise all the things that we've covered so far in the course, starting from module 1, module 2, module 3, all the way to module 5. Also, we'll have some projects which would give us more time to do like practicals of all the stuff we've learned, and also to be able to ask questions, right? And for the period of this course, there's going to be like a sandbox machine that will be provided for you, so you can go in, run tests, run experiments, so that you can also get an idea of how this works in the real sense of it. We're going to have, as I said, review the concepts from previous modules. We're going to complete the Jenkins CI/CD exercise that we started in module 5, and then we'll have a general Q&A for the course, right? This is like the outline of the course, and this is the plan, right? So the way the structure is gonna go is like we're gonna have days where the videos will be dropped, so you have access to the videos, and you have a few days to watch the video, do the exercise, the assignments, and then you have 1 or 2 days to also ask questions. If you're stuck, you can ask me on the group, right? You can also ask your colleagues, right, before the next video comes up, so that you can have time to pace yourself and actually enjoy the experience of the course. That's the plan, right? Once you have access to the course, you'll be able to watch the videos at your own pace. I believe that learning is most effective when it's flexible and it accommodates your schedule, right? So to support like interaction, we've created a WhatsApp group, which I believe you're already a part of, which allows you to engage directly with me. So there will also be like Google Forms, Google Drives for submitting your assignments, receiving feedback, and asking questions. You can also ask like your fellow learners, or just ask on the group, right? So I encourage you to take full advantage of the WhatsApp group and generally the whole course to enhance your learning experience. I'm confident that this course will not just be educational, but also very interactive, engaging, and fun for you. Thank you for joining, and I look forward to embarking on this learning journey with you. All right, goodbye.